In 1940, Jean Cocteau wrote a play for Edith Piaf. It was a one-act piece, 40 minutes long, for one performer. There was no dialogue to speak because the other character, a man who had come back to the woman who loved him, never spoke. He moved around the room. He changed his clothes. He poured a drink. He did not answer her. She spoke for 40 minutes. Alone on the stage, in front of an audience, she spoke to the man who was present and absent at the same time, present physically in the room that the stage had become, absent in every sense that would have made his presence mean anything. The play was called Le Bel Indifférent, the beautiful, indifferent one. It was written by the most celebrated poet and aesthete of Parisian intellectual life, for the woman who had come from the streets of Montmartre, and what it asked of her was not acting in any technical sense, but the specific thing she had been doing her entire life, giving everything she had to a room in which the person she was addressing was not fully present. To understand what the collaboration meant, not as a cultural event, but as a specific act of recognition between two people who understood something particular about each other, you have to understand who Cocteau was in Paris in 1940, and what he had seen in Piaf that made him write the play for her and no one else. Jean Cocteau was, by 1940, a figure of such established centrality in French artistic life that the range of his relationships had become a kind of map of that life. He had known Proust. He had known Picasso. He had worked with Diaghilev. He had moved between the artistic avant-garde and the popular entertainment world with an ease that was partly natural intelligence and partly a commitment to the idea that the distinction between high and low art was an artificial one that serious artists had no obligation to maintain. Paris, in April 1940, was a city that had been living, for 7 months, with the knowledge that it was at war, the war that had been declared in September 1939, and that had not yet produced the catastrophe the summer would bring. The theaters were open. The cafes were full. The premiere of a Cocteau play at a small Parisian venue was exactly the kind of thing that the Paris of April 1940 produced, because Paris in April 1940 was still, in the ways that mattered to the people who lived in it, Paris. The premiere took place at the Boîte à Vitesse. The production was simple, it had to be, because the play was simple, not in the sense of being uncomplicated, but in the sense of having stripped away everything that was not essential. There was a room. There was a woman. There was a man who said nothing. There was Piaf's voice, addressing the silence of the beautiful, indifferent one for 40 minutes. The audience was the audience of the Paris artistic world, the people who read Cocteau, who followed the cultural life of the city at its most sophisticated level, who had not necessarily encountered Piaf except as a name and a reputation from the popular entertainment world. They came expecting a Cocteau piece. What they received was a Piaf performance, which is a different thing, and which operates through different means, and which reaches a different part of the person being reached. What Cocteau said afterward was not the response of an author who had been disappointed. He said that Piaf had done what he had written the play for her to do, and that what she had done with it was something he could not have produced in any other medium or with any other performer. He used language notable for its directness. He said she was, on stage, the truth, not a representation of truth, not a performance of truth, the thing itself. Cocteau's willingness to write for Piaf was not, in this context, a neutral act. The French intellectual establishment of that period maintained the distinction between serious art and popular entertainment with considerable vigor. and the figure of Cocteau himself was, for many of its members, a slightly suspect one. Too popular, too theatrical, too willing to be known in the company of performers who had not been vetted by the academic institutions that certified seriousness. To write a play specifically for Piaf was to make a public statement about her that the establishment had not authorized. What the statement said was that Piaf was a serious artist, not in spite of her origins, not with the condescension of the artistic establishment receiving a natural talent from the working class, but because what she did on a stage was, in Cocteau's assessment, among the most serious things being done on any stage in Paris. He had seen her perform. He had watched her work on an audience. The specific thing she did, which was not entertainment in the ordinary sense, but something closer to the direct transmission of interior experience through the medium of voice and performance. He recognized in this something that his own artistic practice, for all its sophistication, was attempting to achieve in more complicated ways. The play he wanted to write, the play about the beautiful indifferent one, about loving someone who doesn't love you back, required a performer who already knew, from the inside, what it felt like to give everything to something that could not give it back in kind. Piaf knew this feeling. She had been giving her performances to audiences for 15 years, to rooms full of people who received what she offered, but who could not, by the nature of their position as audience, give it back in the way she was giving it to them. The performer's gift is, by definition, unanswerable. The stage is a one-way valve. Cocteau had seen this in Piaf. He had understood that the play he was writing required the performer she already was. There is a particular significance to the fact that Cocteau expressed this recognition not through an essay or a critical statement, but through a play, through the act of writing something that would require her to demonstrate the thing he was recognizing, in front of an audience, in real time. He did not want to say that Piaf was important. He wanted to create the conditions in which the importance would be visible to the people who needed to see it. The play was the proof, and the proof, when it was performed, produced the evidence he had anticipated. What the audience at the Boîte à Vitesse received was the specific shock of encountering the real thing in a setting that had been designed, by conventional expectation, for the refined and the mediated. Piaf was not refined. She was not mediated. She was present, in the fullest sense of the word, in a room that the play had prepared for her arrival. After the premiere, Piaf and Cocteau remained connected in the specific way that people remain connected who have collaborated on something that cost them both something real. Not as close friends, not as professional partners who continued to work together, but as people who had been in the same room for something significant and who carried the knowledge of it forward. She spoke for 40 minutes to a man who said nothing. She gave everything to a silence that could not answer. And when the 40 minutes were over, Cocteau had his evidence, and Piaf had hers. The play was about the condition of giving everything to something that cannot give it back. She knew what that felt like. She had been doing it her entire life. Cocteau called her the truth. He was right.